Good evening, Mel Stiller. Welcome to tonight's True Crime Trivia. Tonight we are looking at questions on Kenneth Bianchi, the Hillside Strangler. You remember reading about him, as you said in your comment there, before the internet. Yes, Kenneth was out there killing a lot longer. Heather, good evening, Heather. Welcome to tonight's True Crime Trivia. Tonight, all the questions are about the Hillside Strangler from California or California, whichever people like to call it. Good evening, Sal, Lemon Pie, Miss K. Good evening, and welcome to tonight's trivia. I hope that everyone had a great weekend. And Cement Shoes, good evening. Welcome to tonight's trivia. It is hot as heck out where I live. It is 107 degrees out right now. I turned the heat on not the heat, the air conditioning on in here about 2.5 hours ago. And it's right now, according to the thermostat on the wall, it is 81 degrees in here. Hey, Kiniku, Inner Peas, Gianna Marie, good evening. Bianchi. Bianchi. Rackart, good evening. Welcome to tonight's trivia, Rackart. I hope you had a pleasant day. Thank you for joining us tonight. All the questions are on the Hillside Strangler tonight. So I hope you studied up on the right individual this time, Kitty Coo, the Hillside Strangler. Only serial killer that I know of with this name. I actually checked after we had our little mix-up last week. Sprinkled donut can only stay a little while. Well, for a little bit while you're here, sprinkled donut. I hope you enjoy your time, and you can always watch it and rewind. And I hope that everything's going great with you. What about the humidity? Well, I'm sure it's not that humid up there. Oh, Reichardt. Oh, the humidity is what gets you the worst. That and the smoke from the California wildfires. We're getting all that smoke, coming up from California. It's terrible right now. The air quality, we're actually underneath an air quality advisory right now. In SoCal, it's 104. Well, good, Kitty Q. California, yeah. Some people call it California too. Give me another 20 seconds here, and we'll get the trivia going. But yeah, it's only going to get worse. The month of August is always the hottest month of the year for where I live. It's not uncommon for every day to be at the century mark, or over it. And we get down to about 70 at night, 60 if we're lucky. Inner Peas, you're not getting any smoke? Well, that's good. Yeah, we're getting it here where I am. All right, let's get the trivia going, ladies and gentlemen. This is episode 317. Yes, 317 episode of trivia. Viewer discretion is advised for any content you'll see on this channel. Some of the content covered and seen on this stream may not be suitable for all ages or audiences. I have restricted access by law to 16 plus on all platforms in accordance with the U.S. and state law under U.S. RCW 26.28.0 08. It is a crime to disseminate this content or access this content if you're under the age of 16. Some people do it and they think it's funny, but because they're using a parent's account or they lied about their age when they set up the account. That's not my fault. I clicked it too many times there. Sorry. All right. Question number 1 is now on the screen, and I'll put myself in my little window here in a second. Question number 1. Before Kenneth killed each and every victim, he loved to play mental games with them. Then he would do what before killing? Was it A, kiss them on the forehead, B, sing them a song, C, tell them he loved them, or D, sexually assault them? Before Kenneth killed each and every victim, he loved to play mental games with them. Then he would do what before killing them? 317. Yep. It is pretty shocking. Unbelievable. In the 1800s, some shoes. Question number 1 is on your screen, and Will is going to be in his little window here in a second. There I am. Little Will in his little window. Lemon Pie is going to go with D. Sal, D. Kirikou, D. Summit, Shoes, C. Mel, and G. Anna Marie are both going with D. Before killing each and every one of his victims, he loved to play mental games with them. Then he would do what before killing them? Lemon Pie. E. Asked then which episode of the Jersey Show was their favorite. Miss K is going with D as well, as is Heather. Question number 1. The correct answer is D as in dog. He was, not only did he have intercourse with them before killing them, he also did so afterwards and as part of his necrophilia. He definitely had sex with them after they died. Oh, yes. Question number 2. Power, complete control, fear, and dominance is what Kenneth sought from each victim. How did he dispatch most of his victims? Most. That is the key word there, most. Is it A, stab them, B, poison them, C, strangle them, or D, he shot them? Power, control, complete control, and fear and dominance is what Kenneth sought from each victim. How did he dispatch most of his victims? The worst torture imaginable. And her P's is going with E, mountain lion. A lot of C's. He looks like a poodle dog in this picture. Yeah, kind of. He definitely has the curls going on in this one. Is one of the very few pictures where he has actual curly hair. That's his natural, his hair is naturally curly. But he shaved his hair a lot, and even to this, all of his prison photos from his IDs, he shaved his head, or he straightened it, straightened his hair so it's straight. Meep, good evening, Meep, and welcome to tonight's trivia. Rykar's going with E, all of the above. All right, question number 2. The correct answer is C as in cat. He strangled most of them. There are 4 victims that he did not strangle that were stabbed to death, but the rest of them were all strangled to death. And he did it with either a rope or his bare hands. All right. Question number 3. Kenneth always carried one item in his front left pocket. This item was in his pocket the day of his arrest as well. What was it? Was it A small plastic cross, B, a former law enforcement badge, C, a Phillips screwdriver, or D, a note from his mother? Question number 3. Kenneth always carried one item in his front left pocket. This was in his pocket on the day of his arrest as well. What was it? Hence the Hillside Strangler. What was the answer to number 1? Question number 1. Missed it. Well, the correct answer was D as in dog. Cement shoes. I don't have the questions written down on the answer key. I just write down the answer key. Sorry. But I can go back to it after this question, though. The keys to his van down by the river, says Inner Peas. Motivational speaker. Welcome back, Carter. The Welcome Back, Carter look, yeah. A Chad Daybell book. Question number 3. The correct answer is A as in apple. A little plastic cross that you would put on a necklace. You might it's like a plastic cross that you would find on maybe a set of rosary beads or something like that. It came off of something else, but it was never on a necklace. It was just a plastic little cross, about 3 inches in size, in total length. But he always had it in his pocket. And in prison, after they obviously they took it away from him, you can't have that because it could be a weapon. He I would guess afterwards, but he had one made out of like string. Somebody made him one out of string that he always kept in his pocket after that. All right, cement shoes. Question number 1 was the correct answer is D as in dog. He sexually assaulted them before killing them. Did you know you are more likely to become a homicide victim if you have the following characteristics? You're a heterosexual male. You live in the inner city. You make less than $78,000 a year. You piss off your woman, or you live in with a mountain lion. You smoke meth and drive a Yugo. You are more likely to become a homicide victim if you have the following characteristics. So if you're male, you live in the inner city, you make less than $78,000, you piss off your woman, and you live with a mountain lion, and you like to smoke meth on the weekends, and you drive a Yugo, you're screwed. Good evening, Tina. And here's what Mr. Kenneth looks like with no hair and what he would do for most of his prison identification after this. You note the bald head. He could grow hair. He just shaves his head. At the very vulnerable age of just 2 weeks of age, Kenneth's world was turned upside down. And what would be the best thing to ever happen for him? What happened? Was it A, his biological father left the family? B, he was adopted? C, he met Chad Daybell? Or D, his mother won the lottery? Question number 4. At the very vulnerable age of just 2 weeks of age, Kenneth's world was turned upside down, and what would be the best thing to ever happen for him? What was it? Avoid mountain lions. Bury Morphew at all costs. Yeah, right? Especially if you let the mountain lion drive, says Cement Shoes. Should have added, if you're a woman likes to watch true crime documentaries too. I actually found an article that where did you know came from an article that I found online about the homicide rate for inner city African American males, but I could not find in the article it gave the statistics of like living to the age of 20, living to the age of 30, living to the age of 50. But I could not find another study of where they actually got the numbers from because there were no, citations of like, where any of the information in that article came from. But that's what I found that interesting. That's where the did you know part came from. Because it turns out the same thing goes for any race. If you live in the inner city, you make less than $78,000 a year, and you piss off your woman, your homicide chances are going up a lot. Meep is going with B, and so is Heather. Mel and Tina are going with B as well. C says Reichardt, of course. Question number 4. All right, the correct answer to question number 4 is B as in boy. He was adopted at 2 weeks of age. 2 weeks of age. By all accounts, his mother, his adoptive mother and his adoptive father loved Kenneth and took very good care of him. There was no actual, physical, mental, or sexual abuse that was ever documented in the home. Although, if you ask Kenneth, he says that his family just didn't have the time for him. But beyond that, he never said that they beat him or that they did anything illegal to him at all. He just turned out to be a rotten apple and a bunch of great apples. All right. Question number 5. By the age of 10 years old, Kenneth was in and out of therapy. He had fits of rage and hurt anyone near him physically. What was the issue? Was it A, psychological issue of PD, that's personality disorder, PD is the actual diagnosis. B, he was being abused sexually. C, they never solved the issue. Or is it D, couldn't wait for Chad Daybell's next book to be released? By the age of 10, Kenneth was in and out of therapy and had fits of rage and hurt anyone near him physically. What was the issue? Born to be bad, says Mel. He was their only child. How much time did he need, right? Very good point there, Kitty Q. Only child, adopted child. But they tried to do everything for him. They gave him all the tools to succeed, and Kenneth just went the opposite direction from a young age on. Maybe there is something to, the genetics of one individual, pushing them towards, a predisposition of violence. I don't think any child is born, defective. He got beaten up by the situation, says Summit Shoes. Question number 5. The correct answer to question number 5 is A as in apple. He was diagnosed with personality disorder, which would later be reclassified as borderline personality disorder, or and such down the line. But they used to call it just PD, personality disorder. But as time has gone by, they have changed the classifications and added new classifications to the personality disorder list itself. But PD, A as in apple, the psychological issue of personality disorder. Question number 6. One of the only known friends Kenneth had from a young age to adulthood described Kenneth how? Was it A, Lazy, super smart. B, lazy, worthless. C, lazy, daydreamer. Or D, lazy and a smartass. Good evening, Tejas. Look, Chad, I'm here just to chill and learn. All right, Tejas, you do that. And welcome to tonight's trivia. I hope you had a great weekend, Tejas. One of the only known friends that Kenneth had from a young age to adulthood described Kenneth how? Question number 6 of 20. Kirikou and Mel are both going with A, so it's lemon pie. Gianna Marie is going with C. Lemon pie is going with E, lazy, and a bad dancer. E, a lazy situation. Dun-dun-dun. Some men's shoes. A fluffer. Rat card. Lazy, 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 lazy. Yes, my weekend went well. Thank you for asking, my brother. Good. I'm glad you had a great weekend, Teos. Question number 6. The correct answer to question number 6 is A as in apple. Lazy, but super smart. His friend who met him at Kenneth when Kenneth was just over a year old. The mothers actually knew each other and they introduced the children, and he stayed friends with Kenneth throughout his entire life. Even after he went to prison for murder, he still communicated with Kenneth. But he describes Kenneth as lazy but super smart. Even though he may not have completed all the work he was supposed to do, Kenneth found school to be boring and not worth his time, because he figured that he knew more about the subject matter than the people who actually teaching it. But he called Kenneth lazy but super smart. And he went on to in great length about some skills that he had and things that he believed that he could have been if he would have applied himself and not been so damn lazy. But for as far as I know, maybe he still communicates with Kenneth. I don't know. Did you know you want to avoid being killed by a serial killer? Well, tough luck. They are everywhere from coast to coast. You can better your odds, however, if you do the following. Never leave your home for anything. Never make friends or speak to family. Never watch the Jersey Shore TV show, and always follow 411 Now for the newest video. Want to avoid being killed by a serial killer? Don't ever leave your home. Don't talk to anybody. Don't ever, communicate with your family or anyone. And certainly do not watch the Jersey Shore. Question number 7. Why was Kenneth turned down for a position with the Monroe, California Sheriff's Office, the Sheriff's Department? Was it A, physically unfit, B, criminal record, C, psychologically unfit, or D, no high school degree? Question number 7. Why was Kenneth turned down for a position with the Monroe, California Sheriff's Department? Stay away from the van down by the river, says Inner Peas. School was boring for him? Yep. He really believed, Mel, that he knew more about the subject matter that the teachers were teaching than they knew. As far as we know, Kenneth has always refused to take a psychological and an IQ test. Although there are people out there on the internet who swear they know what his IQ would be at, I can't find any shred of evidence that he ever took a complete psychological evaluation and had an IQ test. Dead hookers in the trunk, says Cement Shoes. You can't have a job with the sheriff's department because you got dead hookers in your trunk. Lemon pie. He had bad body odor. He couldn't repeat. He couldn't surf either. Question number 7 of 20. Maybe he was right, Will. Maybe. Ooh, Heather, kind of a different B, but is going with B. His criminal record. Play dead to avoid serial killer. They're not mountain lions or bears. Question number 7. Why was Kenneth turned down for a position with the Monroe, California Sheriff's Department? The correct answer to question 7 is D as in dog. He did not have a high school diploma. He dropped out of high school. Again, he was bored and he didn't want to go anymore. He's just like, I'm just not going to go. I don't have to go. You can't make me. I'm not going to go. But they actually offered to, to get him his GED and go through and have him reapply again. In the meantime, he could have been, a cadet and gone through the position, and everything else. And then once he got his actual, thing, they were more than willing to hire him to actually give him a job. And it's the same thing with the California Highway Patrol that he applied for as well. They turned him down again because he had no high school diploma, but he met the qualifications on every other aspect. All right, question number 8. In an interview after his arrest with California State Police, Kenneth confessed that he had what hidden in the woods off of Highway 99. In case you're not familiar with Highway 99, it is a highway that runs along the ocean in California, Washington State. Was it A, victim's clothes, B, a kill kit, C, fake law enforcement uniform, or D, a gun and photos of victims? Yeah, I've seen some things like that about him as well, Kitty Q. But I was unable. I put together a list of IQs of the highest IQs of serial killers, and I could not verify with anyone, even with reporters or people who covered it, who wrote books about the Hillside Strangler, and him and his cousin. I could not find anybody who had any evidence, of his actual taking an IQ test. I wanted to include it because 116 to, give or take, 4 or 5 points here or there, he would have made the top 5. For highest IQs, he would have been number 5 on the list, and he would have bumped off the list John Christie, who has an IQ of 120 to 125. So, but I was unable to verify it because not too many people know who John Christie, the serial killer, was. Y'all want to read up on John Christie? Be my guest. But question number 8 of 20. What did Kenneth say he had hidden in the woods off of Highway 99? Heather's going with B. Kitty Q, D? Question mark. Miss K and me are both going with C, and so is Mel. Rykar's going with B. All right. Question number 8. The correct answer is actually C as in cat. He had a fake law enforcement uniform. That was part of his ruse. He acted like he was a state patrol officer or a sheriff's officer as his ruse to get these women to come with him, to feel at ease when he approached them. But he wasn't an officer. He came close to becoming an officer, but the uniform that he bought from a costume supply company. And it had all the patches and everything else on it, and he bought a gun belt. So he looked like an officer driving, an unmarked car or van or truck or whatever he was using, because he used several different vehicles. But sometimes that was his ruse. Nude pictures of Whoopi Goldberg. I-5 is quicker to ride than Highway 99, but I like Highway 99 better. I camped off of Highway 99 when I was in college. Me and my roommates all went down to we were near San Francisco. We went to almost to Los Angeles off of Highway 99 we stayed on the beach. We only did it for a couple of nights, but it was a nice vacation. All right, question number 9. You'll notice, and I'm going to point this out now, there are 2 of the slides tonight that do not have a photo attached to them. Once I put this all together, I was notified that the photos do not belong to Getty Images. They are in the free domain. But another company called Alchemy has a copyright on the photos. Because of that, before tonight's stream, I removed both of those. It was the same photo, but I used it twice. So that is why there is no photo here for number 9, and I believe the other one is slide number 14. All right, so anyways, question number 9. By late 1975, Kenneth had become obsessed with his cousin. He moved to be closer to him, who would be his crime partner. Who is his cousin? Was it A, Ed Kemper, B, Angelo Bruno, C, Chad Daybell, or D, Jeffrey Dahmer? By late 1975, Kenneth had become obsessed with his cousin. He moved it to be closer to him. His cousin would eventually become his crime partner. Who is his cousin? We got B, Barrymore for you. B. Lemon pie is going with A. Psychopaths. By late 1975, Kenneth had become obsessed with his cousin. His cousin at the time, in case you guys are wondering, owned an upholstery company. They did upholstery for cars, trucks, vans, limos, stuff like that, upholstery. They also had a division that did furniture like couches and chairs and stuff like that as well. But their main profitability was in the automotive upholstery business and custom upholstery. But his cousin had owned this business, and he actually convinced his cousin to shut the business down, even though it was profitable and he had more clients than he could deal with. He actually turned people away because he just didn't have the time to do the work. That's how well he was doing. But Kenneth actually convinced his cousin to close the business down. Question number 9. The correct answer is B as in boy, Angelo Bruno. Angelo was an expert at doing upholstery work, custom work, and redoing work, and people would make furniture, and then he would actually do the upholstery for the furniture. He also did, like I said, custom work for automobiles, cars, trucks, vans, limos. He was good at it. And good evening, left-handed RN. Welcome to tonight's trivia. All right, but B as in boy, Angelo Buono was his cousin he was obsessed with. Question number 10. During his confession to murders in Los Angeles and other crimes across the state, what did Kenneth tell law enforcement he was always seeking from each victim? Was it A sexual dominance, B, a sexual release of fear and pleasure, C, strength from their souls, or D, numbness? During his confession to murders in Los Angeles and other crimes across the state, what did Kenneth tell law enforcement he was always seeking from each victim? Larry, Daryl, and Daryl. Blast from the past. From the, was that Larry, Daryl, and Daryl from the Bob Newhart show? Sal going with A. Good evening, Jude, and welcome to tonight's trivia. I hope you had a great weekend. Thank you for joining us tonight. Question number 10 of 20. Meep is going with A. Gianna Marie, Sal are all going with A. Yes, Will. The Bob Newhart show. I missed that show. It was a good show. KFC secret recipe. Funny cement shoes. I'm going with A, but I'm not so sure it's right, says Mel. Question number 10. Rackard's going with A. So is Heather. All right. Question number 10. The correct answer is A as in apple. Sexual dominance. He wanted to instill fear, psychological torture, physical torture to each and every one of them, and he wanted dominance, sexual dominance over each and every one of his victims. He wanted them to do exactly what he wanted to do and how he wanted it done. And if it wasn't done the right way, he would kill them, and then he would have sex with their body afterwards. What a lovely man, right? All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is the first 10 questions of tonight's trivia. As always, we take a 6-minute break at this point. You can go ahead and stick your head in a freezer, get yourself a drink, smoke a bowl, do whatever you need to do. You do you for the next 6 minutes. And then we will come back here and we will do the next 10 questions, plus the 2 cases of missing and endangered people. Better late than never. Hello, Pippadot. Good evening. Just remember, you might be late, but you're more on time than those who are not here with us right now. Break time. Rest in peace, Bob Newhart. Well, I think Bob passed away quite a few years ago, didn't he? If I remember correctly. We've lost a lot of great comedians and actors over the last 5 years. Recently, 1994. Wow, even longer than I thought. I hope you had a great weekend, Pippadot. No, he just passed away, Will. Oh, that I thought it wasn't too long ago. But I always get like, I have a friend. I don't know, maybe you all have friends like this as well. I have a friend who every time someone famous, either a musician, an actor, or somebody famous passes away, they're immediately they're the first person to post something on Facebook, like a rest in peace to that person. And then they get all worked up about the fact that this person is gone, and I'm like, I don't get it. But I have a friend who is like that, who posts every single time someone famous, or popular dies. I guess should say popular, because sometimes these people are, maybe they're social media stars or whatever. Just doing some cleaning and clothes. Oh, there you go. I have to do laundry tonight. Is Johnny Carson still alive? I do not believe so, Rycart. But I could be wrong about Johnny Carson. I'm sure somebody knows. I know uh, David Letterman is still alive and kicking. He has a younger son. He got a big old beard now. I mean, like a really big long beard, all white. I just saw him on the Manning Cast. That's Peyton Manning's podcast, the Manning Cast. Bob Newhart lived a very long and fruitful life. Yeah, love Bob Barker, neuter and spay your dog, right? The Price is Right. For the first couple of years after Drew Carey took over The Price is Right, I didn't think Drew Carey was really, good for the role. Because we all grew up, or remember Bob Barker being the host of The Price is Right for so many years, and then he took over Drew Carey. But I guess they now looking at it in hindsight, it's just because you have that bias of somebody always being the person, the face of the show. I watched the Joe Rogan live comedy last night. It was pretty good. Oh, that's cool. I've never seen Joe Rogan's comedy. I've seen like little bits and pieces of like his comedy act, because I watched the Joe Rogan podcast. Well, I used to watch it on YouTube, but now he's on Spotify, and I don't watch Spotify because I hate Spotify. All right, we have exactly 40 seconds left. You stopped watching The Price is Right? I haven't watched TV in so long. Pippadot. I mean, I used to watch some when I worked. I used to work at a company where I worked a split shift, or we used to work also AB. They called it ABD shift. You would 1 week you would be on days, next week you'd be on swing, and then next week you'd be on graveyard, and then it would repeat. Well, when you change from one shift to another, it kind of screws up your clock for sleeping. So I would have to, like, when I was working graveyard, I would watch television or something. Ed McMahon is still alive. Yeah, betcha. You betcha, sir. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Question number 11. And this is the most recent one, more recent photos of Mr. Kenneth. Besides murder, what crime did Kenneth and Angelo Bruno commit the most? Was it A, assault, B, arson, C, check fraud, or D, jaywalking? I hate split shift places. Will, you need to watch some good old movies. You know what? I have been watching a lot in the last couple of weeks. Pivot on YouTube. I've been watching old episodes of The Twilight Zone with Rod Sterling, the old black and white Twilight Zone. But besides murder, what crime did Kenneth Bianchi and Angelo Bruno commit the most? Besides murder. Oh wow, I'm really behind. Thank you, Kitty Q. All the greats die young. Yeah. Lemon Pie's going with ripping the tags off of mattresses. Those rebels. Loitering, says Inner Peas. Loitering. You love the Twilight Zone, Pippadot? So do I. Kitty Q says the same thing. Love the Twilight Zone. And it was really hard for like when I first started looking them up on YouTube. I could find a whole bunch of like, cut down episodes where people had cut the videos down to like 3 minutes, 4 minutes, as opposed to the full length, Twilight Zone episode. I'm like, I want to watch an entire episode. But I finally found it. I no longer watch TV. I watch the news on my phone, and I love my Netflix subscription. There you go. All right, question number 11. What crime did they commit the most besides murder? The correct answer is A as in apple, assault. Assault was the crime that committed the most besides murder. All right, question. Oh, did you know between the years 1980 and 2020, a staggering number of victims of serial killers all had the 4 risk factors that made them easier to target for serial killers? Those factors were the following. And first one is drug and alcohol usage. Next one is hitchhiking or accepting rides from Bundy, as in Ted Bundy. Next one is straight brunette hair or straight blonde hair. Or last one is selling their ass down on the street corner. Between 1980 and the year 2020, a staggering number of victims of serial killers had all 4 risk factors. What a delightful pair. I love seeing all those old guest stars in the Twilight Zone. Oh yeah, that's a blast. I don't even I want to find like a playlist though for the Twilight Zone where it's full episodes and I can just watch them in order. But what I finally ended up doing is I went to the Internet Archives, and it's the Library of Congress's Internet Archives, and you can watch like a 4-hour episode of nonstop of Twilight Zone episodes back to back to back to back. So I couldn't find what I was looking for on YouTube. All right, question number 12. Come one, come all. Step right up for the tale of a prison visitor. One visit, one kiss, one hug. I now pronounce you husband and wife. Who married Kenneth after a 10-minute visitation once? Was it A, Marcia Brady, B, Lori Vallow, C, Shirley Book, or D, Jane Marshall? Come one, come all, step right up Tale of a prison visitor. One visit, one kiss, one hug. I now pronounce you husband and wife. Who married Kenneth after a 10-minute visitation once? I like old TV shows too. Well, you got brown hair. Uh-oh. Question number 12 of 20. Ooh, we got an awful lot of C's. Lemon pie. RuPaul. RuPaul. Katie Q and Heather are both going with C as well. Interpeed. Neil Patrick Harris. All right, question number 12. The correct answer is C as in cat. Shirley Book married Kenneth after one single visitation. She had originally written Kenneth as a prison pen pal, and they corresponded back and forth. And one only time after a 10-minute visitation, he proposed to her, and they got married. They were allowed one small peck on the cheek, no mouth to mouth kissing. They were allowed one brief hug and I mean brief hug, and then they were married right afterwards. They stayed married for only a short period of time. Shirley eventually divorced Kenneth because Kenneth would not stop corresponding with other women. Yes, there were over a dozen other women who kept on writing him, and he kept on, promising his love and his devotion, and they would be together forever. Because these other women were putting money on Kenneth's prison account for his phone and for commissary. He was luring all these women along, but Shirley thought, once we get married, that's it. You're done, because you're now my man in prison. And he said, oh, hell no, I'm not. And he kept on doing it anyways. The other day, it was a Twilight Zone marathon on TV. I watched a couple episodes a day. Some of those episodes I'd never seen before. Love the Twilight Zone. That's cool, right, Cart? Women be writing. Yeah. But she eventually divorced him. And after she divorced Kenneth, I was going to say the last part is she went on to actually correspond with two other inmates that were on death row. I do not know if she ever married any of them or if she married someone else later on, but Shirley Book, would go on to correspond with death row inmates afterwards, after she divorced Kenneth. All right. Question number 13. How did Kenneth Bianchi get the nickname the Hillside Strangler in the first place? Was it A victim was dumped on a hill? B, he lived on a hill? C, his middle name is Hill? Or D, his first victim was Janet Hill? How did Kenneth get the nickname the Hillside Strangler in the first place? Poor Shirley, she should have been booked for gullibility. That big bloody hand on the screen wants to smash you, Will, in your little window. It does look like that, doesn't it, right, Cart? Well, we've got two more trivia nights with those handprints on them, the bloody handprints, and then the bloody handprints are going to fade away after that. I say that because I already have the next two trivia nights already finished for the month of August. And those trivia nights are the 11th and the 25th. There is no trivia night the 18th. I am going to be out of town the 15th, 16th, 17th, and 18th, and 19th. There will be videos uploaded that are already uploaded the 15th, 16th, and 17th. There will be no content the 18th and 19th of August. But I will be out of town. I will be in Centralia, Washington. From the cartoon King of the Hill. He is best buds with Jonah Hill. You like to watch Hill Street Blues? Oh man, I love that show. Hill Street Blues from back in the day. All right, question number 13. The correct answer is A as in apple. And this is where it gets sick, ladies and gentlemen. The victim that Kenneth would kill and would get him the nickname, the Hillside Strangler, he actually killed a woman by the name of Yolanda Washington, and he dumped her body on a hill in the Forest Lawn Cemetery. And because the victim was murdered and dumped on a hill, the media gave him the nickname the Hillside Strangler. And this, of course, predates them ever knowing that he was a serial killer. But if the very first victim they found was Yolanda Washington. Cement shoes. I'm back. All right, cement shoes. Question number 14. From the discovery of the very first victim, law enforcement knew they were looking at a crime way beyond their skills. What did they do? Was it A, they called the state police? B, they called a psychologist? C, they called the FBI? Or D, they called a press conference? From the discovery of the very first victim, law enforcement knew they were looking at a crime way beyond their skills. What did they do? How the hell do I get rid of this thing? Hold on. I got a pop-up on the thing here and I can't close it. Go away. There. Hopefully that I got it to close. I don't need to know what my score is for my antivirus. Kenneth Copeland looks like a monster vampire. Record A and C. They called Barry Morpheus, says Mel. Wouldn't you do A before C? You could. They called Kojak, bang bang. Telly Savalas in his lollipop. They called Starsky and Hutch. Who they should have called is they should have called TJ Hooker. And TJ always solved the crimes. You know, and if they didn't we're going to call him, you know, they could have called Rockford, James Rockford from the Rockford Files. I mean, but he was more of a private investigator, so, and maybe what they should have called was someone else, huh? Monk. Well, but before Monk, we had oh man, I can picture him, but I'm drawing a blank on his name. He was like Monk, and that very eclectic individual. Oh my God, T.J. Hooker. they never called John Poncherello either. Cagney and Lacey, right? All right, question number 14. The correct answer is B as in boy. They called a professor at California California State, as in the university, by the name of Morby, Professor Morby, and they asked her what was were they looking at here, because she had studied serial killers and spree killers and had written several peer-reviewed articles on serial killers, and spree killers. And they thought that, there is something unique about this case that is beyond our actual abilities to solve. This is not going to be a one-off. They knew that from the get-go. But they called this psychologist and asked her for her input on the entire thing, because she had worked with law enforcement quite a few times over the years. But they did call the FBI eventually, especially after the bodies start, racking up. The press conference didn't come about until like the third victim, and by that time the FBI was already involved, because what they were afraid of was not one, there was a serial killer on the loose. They already knew they had another serial killer that they were currently investigating, who wasn't, Kenneth, but they also had another series crimes of a serial rapist who was hitting the same area, and they're like, is this a serial rapist who is now moved on to murder? And that's what they were most worried about. But got to think about the time and the location for it all. But they called a psychologist, B as in boy. All right, did you know? A lot of people have asked, do serial killers have a favorite color? A color they look for that a victim may be wearing. As odd as a question as that may seem, did you know the BAU, which stands for the Behavioral Analysis Unit with the FBI, actually tracks this? The answer is blue, the color blue. 47.5% of all victims were wearing the color blue at the time that they were killed by a serial killer. Haha, I would have guessed red, as in they're always seen red. But 47.5% of all victims of serial killers were wearing something blue, either a blue jacket, a blue pair of pants, a blue shirt, a yellow shirt with blue butterflies on it. Somewhere on them, they were wearing the color blue. 47.5%. And don't ask me about other colors, because I didn't write it down, and I'm sorry about that. Question number 15. Oops, I guess this one jumped down over the border there. I was just sitting there eating my cheeseburger when she walked by. 20 minutes later, I had killed her. Who was Kenneth talking about? Was it A, Sharon Tate, B, Judith Miller, C, Margaret Miller, or D, Theron Sate? I was just sitting there eating my cheeseburger when she walked by. 20 minutes later, I had killed her. Who was Kenneth talking about? Ruh-oh, says Kitty Coo. True Blue. Hill Street Blues, Will. I'm still trying to remember that detective's name from the TV show. It's driving me nuts, and I'm gonna remember it. Gianna Marie. Yeah. Good evening. If I forgot to say hello, Anna P is going with Ronald McDonald. Meep is going with B. Lori Vallow in a previous incarnation, says Summit Shoes. Because she truly believes that she has been reincarnated. She believes that her and Chad were once married in a previous life, and they had a happy life together. They both believe in that crazy shit. I mean, who am I to say that it didn't really happen? Maybe Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell really did have a previous marriage and that they were happy together. Well, I guess they're going to have to find out if they're going to be happy with the next one, because this one, they're going to spend apart in different prisons the rest of their lives where they deserve to be. McDermott. Oh, man, what the hell is that guy's name? I see what you did on D. Yes, they live together in stupid land. Did I? Did I do that, Pip and Dot? Did he compete as a woman in the Olympics? The bald guy with a lollipop, who was that? That was Telly Savalas. That was Kojak. Meep. Kojak. The TV show was called Kojak. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to help me with this, with the trying to figure out who this detective is in this show. He always wore a tan jacket. He had mannerisms that were kind of like, you know, a monk. He always had, his hair was always messed up. Yeah, Telly Savalas was Kojak. Columbo. Thank you, Kitty Q. I knew you guys would know it. Columbo. For some reason, I just was not able to. I could mentally picture him, but I could not put a name to him. All right, question number 15. The correct answer is B as in boy, Judith Miller. Judith Miller, in his conversation with law enforcement, I guess you could call it a partial confession, he said he was just sitting there enjoying his day, eating his cheeseburger. And no, it wasn't at McDonald's or anything like that. He'd never actually mentioned where he got the cheeseburger, but he was just sitting there eating his cheeseburger. And he had already killed a day before. And then he saw her walk by, and he said he just knew she was going to be the next one. So he just walked away from his food and decided to kill her. Judith Miller, B as in boy. In case you're wondering, ladies and gentlemen, Judith Miller was not even 16 years old. She was a couple months shy of her 16th birthday. She was 15 years old. I know. Columbo and his rumbled raincoat, right? Thank you very much. All right, question number 16. What was the longest cooling off period Kenneth ever took between murders? Was it A, 13 weeks, B, 13 seconds, C, 13 hours, or D, 13 days? What was the longest cooling off period Kenneth ever took between murders? What a waste of a burger, says Rykart. The guy with the same suit hat was on Mayberry. RFD. Who was that? Mayberry. Mayberry RFD. Same suit. I tried to call Will's attention to your comment at least twice. Well done, my friend. I'm sorry. What did I miss? But there was an even younger victim. Oh yeah, there was definitely a younger victim. But I'm just pointing out that Miss Miller was not even 16. She was 2 months shy of her 16th birthday. Between Big Macs, cement shoes, 144,000 hours. Barney Fife. Barney Fife. And every time I hear the word of earlier, Mayberry, I was thinking, Jim Neighbors, because Jim Neighbors was on the Andy Griffin show, and he was also on Gomer Pyle. Wasn't he also on Dobie Gillis? Jim Neighbors? Wasn't he the beatnik on Dobie Gillis? That's fine. Well, it's all good, my friend. I'm sorry, Mel. All right. What was the longest cooling off period Kenneth ever took between murders? The correct answer is D, as in dog. 13 days. Matlock. Matlock. That was a good show. So was Murder, She Wrote with Angela Lansbury. But 13 days was the longest that Kenneth ever took off between two murders. 13 days. All right. Did you know? We love to poke fun at the Jersey Shore TV cast. Why? Because it's like shooting fish in a barrel, folks. Low-hanging fruit, if you will. But hey, did you know between 1990 and 2020, there were only 8 homicides in the state of California by people with SAG cards? A SAG card is a Screen Actors Guild card. And they're very, very hard to get, and they're even harder to keep. And only 1 in New Jersey. Yet, get this, 22 folks who performed in off-Broadway plays during the same time period, committed murders. So heads up, everyone. The Mountain Lion Returns, a.k.a. The Lion King. The play is coming to a small theater near you. Now, these people, these homicides, were not of other actors or people who were involved in the actual presentations, but these were people with Screen Actors Guild cards who killed people during that entire 30-year span. Screen Actors Guild card. My daughter has hers. I think she has like another, I want to say, year if she wants to keep her card. Beatnik was the guy who played Gilligan. Oh, yeah, okay. That was Bob Denver. Bob Denver played Dobie Gillis and Gilligan on Gilligan's Island. Interesting thing about Gilligan's Island, little side note, since you brought it up. In the opening credits, where they show the SS Minnow, ground ashore of uncharted desert isle. All right, that island and that cove itself is a real place in Hawaii, and it just happens to be the where later on, much later, but that cove and that actual beachfront property was bought by Imelda Marcos, The wife, her husband was the president of the Philippines, and they fled in exile to Hawaii after the government was overthrown. And what made Imelda Marcos famous, besides being a complete snob, she had what at that time a lot of people assumed was the world's largest collection of shoes. She had something like 19,000 pairs of shoes. While her country was, and countrymen and women were starving to death, and crime was rampant in the Philippines. They, she was living the life of luxury, but they would eventually, when they fled the Philippines, they moved to Hawaii, and that's where they set up, and they bought that actual piece of land and that cove where the Gilligan's Island, the opening was actually shot. But that was that opening credit with the boat and all that was shot way before they ever moved there. It's a little side note. I happen to know a lot about that. So that's where my brother-in-law and his side of the family, they all fled the Philippines during the same time because his dad was the head of the Marcos military at the time. All right, question number 17. According to the FBI file on the murders of Kenneth Bianchi, did he ever have another accomplice besides his cousin? A, no, he acted alone. B, yes, he had a former jailhouse friend. C, no, he didn't like sharing the fun. Or D, yes, he had two others. According to the FBI files on the murders, just the murders, did Kenneth have another accomplice besides his cousin in any of the murders? What a disgusting display of disrespect. Yes, I remember that well. All of the shoes, unreal. Yeah. Hundreds of pairs of shoes, over 19,000 pairs. And they moved them all from the Philippines when they fled. All those shoes went to Hawaii with Imelda. But I was starting to say, my brother-in-law's dad, his dad was in charge of the Meldos military in the Philippines, and when the country got overthrown, and the coup happened, they all had to flee for their lives, and that's how they all moved to America. Some relocated in the San Francisco Bay Area, Oakland, and San Francisco. A large portion of them moved up to the Pacific Northwest, and that's where my brother-in-law came from, and his mom, his other extended family member. His father did not make it out of the Philippines. Oh, I got confused with Gilligan's Island and Fantasy Island. LOL. Tattoo was not on Gilligan's Island. LOL. Tattoo. The plane. Ricardo Montalban was the host of the Fantasy Island. This guy looks stuck on himself. Yeah, Kenneth definitely thought an awful lot of himself. Just think how many families could have been fed with the money she spent on shoes, right? That was the Philippines as a whole has been extraordinarily corrupt and still is corrupt to this very day. And I'm not joking at all about this next fact. Right now, the president of the Philippines has hired murder squads to patrol the streets looking for people dealing drugs, using drugs at all. If they find somebody who is using drugs or is selling drugs, they are killing them on the spot in the Philippines right now today as we are doing this trivia. Murder squads in an area, they're sanctioned by the government. So these people are riding around, 2 people on a motorcycle at a time, and they are murder squads roaming the streets because crime and drugs are rampant right now. It's so bad. You know, my extended family, none of them will go back there on vacation. They're afraid to go anywhere near the place at all. I missed Fantasy Island. Used to be amazed as a kid by it. Right? Oh, yeah, it was all that. Yeah. All right. Question number 17. Mel's going with A. All right. And for question number 17, if you answered either A or C, you can go ahead and count that you got this one correct. No, he acted alone, or no, he didn't like sharing the fun. Basically, the same answer. He did not act, he never acted with and had another accomplice in any of the murders other than with his cousin. That was the only person that had ever committed murders with him. So if you answered A or if you answered C, you got it correct. So give yourself credit if you answered either A or C for question number 17. There was a movie about the Bourne Legacy was filmed. Wow. Question number 18. What disturbing items, plural, did Kenneth pack up and take with him when he moved from California to Washington State? What disturbing item or items did Kenneth pack up and take with him when he moved from California to Washington State? Was it A, hair from each victim, B, trophies from each victim, C, photographs of victims, or D, Chad Daybell's books? Meep, you got 5 right. Filmed in Manila, the capital. That is the capital, I do believe, of the Philippines. I'm terrible at world geography and capitals, but I do believe that is where the capital is. I've never been there. Never been to the Philippines. My sister's been back there, well, 8 or 9 times with her husband. E, umbrellas. Lemon pie is going with D. We got a whole lot of B's. And Rat Car's going with D, of course. That's correct, Will. Question number 18. What do you think about them looking up DNA sites to pay child support for sex workers, children being born in the Philippines? Will, are they? Will, they are locating the dads. I didn't know they were doing that, Miss K. There are a whole lot of children, in Vietnam and in Cambodia and Laos that all have mixed heritage, to say the least, from tourists and going back from during the Vietnam War. I wonder if they're going to do the same thing there. I went to Thailand, 14 hours on a plane, said me. Ooh, Lori Vallow, Skittles lipstick. What disturbing item did Kenneth pack up and take with him from California to Washington State? Question number 18. The correct answer is B as in boy. He had a box a small box, but it was still a box with trophies from each and every one of his victims. That some of them were driver's licenses, other ones were pieces of necklace. But when he was actually caught, he still had this box full of trophies of items that from each and every one of his victims. B as in boy is the correct answer. Question number 19. What profession did Angelo Bruno have before he connected with his cousin, who convinced him to close the business up so they could kill more? I gave you this answer, ladies and gentlemen. Is it A, show replacement store, B, dress shop, C, a car detailing shop, or D, an upholstery shop? Yes, from the American involvement in the Vietnam War. I watched something on TV on our 60 Minutes there where you are, Ms. K. They're talking about doing that, the DNA to find the parents, the father. Well, they're not, I shouldn't say father, the donor or donor. It's very interesting though, if it actually works. The mafia, says Inner Peace. Tina, Miss K, Gianna Marie, Rycart, Pimpadot, and Sal are all going with D. What profession did Angelo Bruno have before he connected with his cousin, who convinced him to close the business up so they could kill more? He said he worked alone. Go back and the question was, who did he kill with? The previous question to me was, who did he kill with? Did he have another accomplice besides his cousin? Besides his cousin. And he did not have any other accomplices in murder besides with his cousin. His cousin was the only one he killed with. What was his cousin's business? The correct answer is D, as in dog, an upholstery shop. Earlier, I told you about his upholstery business in automotive and in furniture. They did both, but the automotive was the most lucrative of the entire business. But it convinced him to close it up, even though he was making money. Apparently, he enjoyed murdering people much, much more. All right, question number 20. While doing life without any chance ever at parole, Kenneth wouldn't shut his mouth to law enforcement, and law enforcement loved it. What did he confess to? Was it A, car theft in San Diego, B, working at a chop shop, C, sexual assault in Burbank, California, or D, home robberies? While doing life without any chance ever at parole, Kenneth wouldn't shut his mouth, and law enforcement loved it. What did he confess to? Yay! I just got a weather alert. Tomorrow, I'm going to have a high pollen count, and it's going to be 105. 2 degrees cooler than it is today. They located a dad in New Zealand. He was on 60 Minutes. What, 60 Minutes Australia, Miss K? Gianna Marie's is going with C, and so is me. I'll have to look that up. That sounds interesting. Well, thank you for telling me about that, Miss K. Writing novels under the pen name of Chad. He confessed to. Lemon Pie says, pineapple on pizza. While doing life without any chance of parole, Kenneth wouldn't shut his mouth, and law enforcement loved it. What did he confess to? Question number 20. The correct answer is C, as in cat. Sexual assault in Burbank, California. That was just one of the many things that he confessed to, but that was the most serious besides the murders that he committed. But sexual assault in Burbank, California, being part of the 144,000 with Chad and Lori, licking the donuts with Ariana Grande. Oh, that's a good one, so then choose. Excuse me. So how did you do tonight on tonight's trivia? This is completely optional. You do not have to give yourself a letter grade. Some people like to, some people don't. An A to E. And next up, you can help solve a cold case or a missing case. Again, giving yourself a letter grade is optional. Writing the preface for Chad's disgusting books. Inner peace. Yeah. He wore white after Labor Day. So it is 60 minutes Australia, says Miss K. All right. I'm gonna have to look that up later. I mean, I think that's interesting. Yeah, if they can do that. I mean, going to it have to be familial DNA, you would think, unless the person themselves submitted their own actual DNA to one of the databases. But if it helps, identify, who the baby daddies are, and there are probably a lot of them running around in the Philippines. Sal says, "A," and surprised me. I did better this time. Said C. There you go. I did great. I enjoyed the quiz even more. Well, good, Mel. Rykart F. Freaking mountain lion Barry Morphew. All right. You can help solve a cold case or a case of someone who is missing. Damn it. The thing's skipping on me. Okay. One click. There we go. The Charlie Project, along with Missing National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, NAMUS, and the FBI, in connection with local and federal law enforcement agencies, including the FBI, along with NAMUS, no one on YouTube or social media besides myself has collaborated with more multi-law enforcement agencies to provide you more accurate information on the cases I'm about to present, and as this should be expected. The first one tonight is missing case of Leslie Lavon Hunter, missing since 3/18 of 2022 from Jonesboro, Arkansas. She is 5'4", 210 to 215 pounds. Hair color brown, eyes hazel. Almost nothing is known about the disappearance. What is known, law enforcement is refusing to release and any information about it at all. Someone out there knows what happened to Lavon. She just up and vanished. Her purse, money, and her wallet and identification, everything was found in her residency. So she didn't willingly just leave everything behind and walk away and decide to move someplace else and start a new life. But she's gone. If you know anything about what happened to LaVon, from Jonesboro, Arkansas, um, please, call 870-935-5551 if you know anything at all. Next is Brittany Nicole Schenk, missing from Sturgis, Michigan. Last seen after a car crash on 11/30 of 2018. This is a missing mother of 4 children who desperately want their mother back, and any help, anything at all can help. Take a look at these photos. These are taken about, according to the information I found online, less than 6 months apart in actual date from the of when the one in the top was taken before the one in the bottom right. They're 6 months apart. Brittany Nicole Schenk. November 30th of 2018, Brittany was involved in a minor car accident, a single car accident. No one was hurt, but was hurt, and she got her boyfriend's car stuck in the mud. After it was on a foggy night, and she veered off a county road into the ditch and got the car stuck. Without any coat or provisions at all, she started going door to door asking people if they could help her. Nobody was able at that hour to go out and help her pull her car out of the mud. And they said, look, just call a tow truck. If you want to call somebody else, you can. And she refused and walked away. Between the first house that she went to and the second to last house, somebody had given her a green army jacket, like a Vietnam era solid green, light green, jacket, but nobody knows who. But at the last house, second to last house, and the last house, she now has a green jacket, and she's a quarter of a mile from where her car is stuck in the mud. She tried to call 911 because she couldn't get through on the service, trying to use the emergency system, but because of where she was at, she could not complete the call. But 911 got 2 pings that her cell phone tried to call them from that area, but it wasn't like a hang up situation. The call never came through. But again, Nicole stands 5'1", and she's approximately 115 to 125 pounds. And any information that you may have that might be able to help solve this case. People just don't vanish. There's always evidence left behind. Somebody knows what happened to this mother. Earlier in the same day that Brittany vanished, she was seen with a man described as 5'6" to 5'8" with mutton chop sideburns and blonde hair. It is unclear if he has anything to do with Brittany's disappearance. Earlier in the day, that would have been approximately 12 noon to 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and the accident happened at in the later evening hours. So, but however, law enforcement would love to speak with this individual who was seen with her. Do they know where she was going? Do they know what happened to her, or where, did they ever hear from her again? This individual at the time of the accident in 2018 would have been between the ages of 23 and 26. That's a very uncommon hair, and sideburns, today. 1960, I mean, Jerry Mungo, if you guys remember who Jerry Mungo is, the singer in the mutton chops, sideburns. They were very popular in the 1960s and 1970s. Not so much in 2018 with blonde hair. Okay, keep that in mind. But if you know anything, call 269-558-0500. Any and all the cases that I present, you can contact your local law enforcement agency or your county sheriff's department or state patrol. Even if you can't reach out to the numbers that I provide on screen, you can still call one of them if you know anything about, any clue at all to help solve one of these cases. It doesn't matter how small the tip is. That it may help bring a family, and help close a case. There's nothing stopping you from helping besides yourself. You can a lot of these numbers you can call and you can leave an anonymous tip. I remember seeing this. I saw this. I don't know if it'll help, but I'd like to leave this tip anyways. Anonymously. You can leave it in without giving them any information. Just help. You can do it. Sang the song in the summertime. Yep, Jerry Mungo. In the summertime. Meep wants to know what mutton chops are. Sideburns, mutton chops. Think of like a pork chop, but reversed. They come out like that, mutton chop. I'll keep an eye out for this mother of four, right? She's been missing since 2018, and she's not contacted any of her children or anyone else, her family, nothing. And every single one of the homes that she went to and spoke to someone and asked them for help, every one of them, when contacted later on, they all said she wasn't hurt. She didn't have any physical injuries. They asked about that, but they just weren't able to go help her pull her boyfriend's car out of the mud. And by the way, her boyfriend was cleared. He was at work, that day and about 35 miles away. So he was cleared of having any involvement in her disappearance. But nobody knows what happened. And that's why they're looking for the younger gentleman with the mutton chop, sideburns, blonde hair between the ages of 23 and 26 that she was seen with earlier in the day. Between the ages of 26 and 35, I believe. For what? A porcupine type of hairstyle. And but that's it for the trivia and for the missing. So you all might be wondering, who is next week's trivia on? Who is next week's trivia on? This is the calendar, for the entire month of August. Give me that really quick. No real updates since yesterday. If you caught yesterday's stream, again, I'll be on vacation the 15th through the 19th, but I have content the 15th, 16th, and 17th. It's already uploaded, waiting to be released, and it's already set to be released at certain times on all 3 of the days. Everything is a full-length video unless it says in red there, shorts. Next week's trivia is on none other than Gary Leon Ridgway and the Green River Killings. 8/11 of 2024. That is next Sunday. Is Gary Leon Ridgway and the Green River Killings. That is the same time that the trivia is always. You can put it in pink on your calendar. Every single Sunday, we have trivia at the same time. 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 5 o'clock Mountain, 7 o'clock on the East Coast of the United States. Please note, though, there will be no trivia on the 18th of this month. I will not be in town. I will be in Centralia, Washington. If you've never been to Centralia, there is not a whole hell of a lot to do there. But it's Centralia. I will be bouncing back and forth between Chehalis and Centralia. But next week is Gary Leon Ridgway. All of the trivia for next week for Gary Ridgway and the Green River Killings, all of that is done already for the 11th. And so is the trivia night for the 25th. I already have them done. And let's just say that a little sneak preview. The trivia for the 25th is a suggested video trivia subject by one of the subscribers and someone who is here right now in the actual comment section. The 25th is a suggested content by them. Maybe she went to Sturgis, but that's the first week. I didn't even know there was a Sturgis, Michigan. That I've heard of Sturgis, in the Dakotas, for the Harley Davidson, the biker rally, and Sturgis in the Bad Hills, there in Sturgis. I didn't even know there was a Sturgis in Michigan, though. Gary Ridgway, quite the prize. Yuck, right? Baseball season. Yeah, is baseball season coming up? I know Otis Tool for Trivia Night Cement Shoes. Otis Tool, I thank you for the suggestion, cement shoes. I have Otis on my list. South Dakota, for the biker rally. I guess Richard Rawlings just opened a bar there. It came across on my feed, in case you don't know who Richard Rawlings is. He's the Fast and Loud, the TV show, Richard Rawlings from Texas. And now he's got, his new shop that's no longer on television, but it's on YouTube. But apparently he just opened up a bar there. And apparently it's open for just in time for the biker rally. Who's that old man wearing a black hat with a cigarette that appears on my cell phone screen every time that I tilt my phone to see full screen on tonight's trivia? Are you talking about the little guy in the corner? Right, Card? Is he wearing a black hat? Yeah, black hat. That's the preacher from the movie Poltergeist. The one that was trying to get Caroline to come with him in the movie Poltergeist, the first one. I used to have like a million other channels out there that used to say subscribe, but if you click on that, it makes you, it'll ask you to subscribe and do the bell notifications and all that. But I got tired of it being on my screen, so I changed the profile, that little picture, to the preacher from Poltergeist. There isn't a lot of cell reception in that area last time I was there for Biker Week, Heather. That's cool. I've never been there for the biker rally. I was actually interesting though, in case anybody ever goes there, to Sturgis for the biker rally. Near the where the biker rally is held in Sturgis, there is a wildlife reserve where you can drive through it in your car, and there are no fences between the animals at all. They can roam up to a certain section, and then they just stop. It's the wildest thing. We actually camped there once. It just happened to be biker rally weekend, but we didn't know. But we were at a KOA campground near Sturgis, but not in Sturgis itself. But we were planning on going to that zoo, that wildlife reserve in Sturgis, Michigan. Dupree guy, the murders started in Michigan. Oh, that was Poltergeist 2, was it, Dean? And good evening, Dean. I thought he was in the first one. They had that little old lady with the liquor flask. You know, you could hear her, you know, quink, 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 quink every time she walked. Was that number 2 that he was in, though? Well, I could be wrong, but thank you, Dean. Coldwater, Michigan. I thought you did it purposely. Great autocorrect for once. Nag, part 2. Nag. That must be an autocorrect. Nag 2. Well, whichever. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to wrap up tonight's trivia there. On the way out, before we end the stream, if you would hit the thumbs up button, I would appreciate it. If not, hit the thumbs down. Whichever. It all acts as an interaction and shows that somebody was here and somebody either liked it or didn't like it. It doesn't count against the actual creator, even though a lot of people are like, oh my God, they don't have the thumbs down number anymore. Because it doesn't, and none of it counts for anything. It's just an interaction. But if you hit the thumbs up button, it does help incrementally. It takes an awful lot of them to equal up to a suggestion, but it does help. You're going to die in there, old guy. Thank you, Will, mods, and everybody. Thank you, everyone, for being here again for Trivia Night. Again, next week, the 11th, is Gary Ridgway and the Green River Murders. Is next Sunday. And then the 25th is I'm kind of keeping held back because it is a surprise, a viewer suggested content. But everyone, you all have a great week ahead. You got Jerry Mungo in your head. the guy playing the jug. But everyone, bye. Have a great week. You stay safe out there. And you as well, Rykart.